Okay, so good evening everyone joining us virtually, and good evening to our live audience here at the Kyereh Institute. My name is Elizabeth Johnson, Festival Administrator for Kyereh Festival in Accra, and I am very happy to have you here joining us, and this wouldn't be possible without your support. Welcome Tryphena and Afua and Kwaku, who is here with us in Ghana. So I think that this will get getting used to, but we can start. So we have with us tonight 3 poets who have recently been published in the New Generation African Poets chapbook box set, and they are Afua, Ansong, Henner, Kwaku, and Tryphena, Yeboah. So and we are really excited for this reading, because not only does this give us the opportunity to interact with Ghanaian writers, but we are interacting with contemporary Ghanaian writers who are one way or the other making a difference. And I think that having been edited by the great Kwaku is an amazing achievement in such an early stage of your careers. And so congratulations to you guys, and thanks for joining us on Twitter.
Having us here. Sorry.
Okay, so without further long talk, let's get right into the conversation. And I'd like to start with Kwaku, who is just by my side. And my first question, obviously, will be, how do you feel having your first, this is your first, yes. So your first poetry collection published, and not just published, but published and edited by Moderator?
Okay, so it feels good, definitely. Okay, so definitely it feels good, you know. The fact that it was in the department that selected the work, I mean, it speaks volumes. It means that at least you're doing something, and then people are getting to know what you're doing. So it definitely is a good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to now pass over to Afua and Tryphena. And starting with you, Afua, how does it feel to have your collection out? And then when you answer, I would like to also hear from Tryphena.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Kwaku was saying. Actually, I met Kwaku in 2016, and I was like, my mentor introduced me to him, and I was like so excited, and I know that the collection's like a big thing. And so when I met him, I felt that automatically, like I was gonna publish like the next day. And so he gave me his card. He was like, yeah, well, you're doing great work, submit your poems. And they don't really tell you before you submit. You have like, let's say, a few weeks. And so I was like, I got all my poems together, I'm ready, and then I submitted, and I got rejected. I said, oh, I meant the bosses, so I didn't get through. And so I had been submitting for, I guess, is it 2 or 3 times? And so when I finally got the invitation to submit the 3rd time, I was like, this is it. And so I was like really, really excited. And I'm excited about this whole thing, basically, yeah.
Oh, it's my turn. I didn't even know about it first. I didn't know about all the times you tried out. I'm so excited you got it this time. I think for me it was surprising as well, because I didn't expect them to reach out and ask for a manuscript. I think they do a lot of internal referencing and recommendation within the team. So I received an email that, oh, we're interested to look at your work. And then I had to now sort of put together poems, scattered poems I've been written over like for a couple of months now. So I think that I'm just really, really excited about this opportunity. And the editorial process has been remarkable, because I think this is like the very first time we've had to closely engage and work with these great editors. And yeah, this is amazing, guys. This is some awesome news that we get to share.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so rejection for some, and then they got their first try. And for others, it was just an automatic first try. Speaking of rejections, and people, we have been in conversation every now and then about getting your stuff published and rejected and all of that. I hope you can speak about that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't now because
yes, I can.
Okay, so I remember a few years ago we were discussing trying to get your stuff published, get it out there. Anytime you have a rejection, you would come and make a laugh about it. And what surprised me is how you took this rejection phase onto social media. And so sometimes you tweet about, I sent my work and it got rejected and all of that. Tell me why you felt it was important to, display the rejection phase of your career.
Okay, so what I can say about that is, even with getting to this book, there was a rejection before getting to this. So, with the same African poetry book fund. So, I mean, it's all fun and games, but, it hurts sometimes, but like, we have, it's a community. We say in Ghana we don't have a writing community, but we have like packets of, representations. So, if I share my story and somebody is going through the same phase, probably that may encourage that person to keep going. I mean, we are encouraging ourselves, yo, this is what's going on, let's keep pushing. I mean, when Jay has a rejection, he talks to me about it. When I have a rejection, he talks to me about it. When Kofi has a rejection, Barbara, so it's just like that. So if I share, we all move through it. I mean, they also come back, yo, this was painful, we definitely know, but we keep doing this. It's a movement thing, Yeboah, so. Not to leave you out of this conversation, Tryphena, but I want to dwell on the issue of rejection a bit more. And this question is to you, Afua. Tell me, what do you think about how the rejection phase has shaped you or refined your writing? Do you think that it's something that was important that you go through to kind of sharpen your writing skill to get you this far?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a kind of person, I don't take rejection well because I feel like everyone does, but the kind of, I guess, excitement that I put into the work and like I offer it to these editors. And like the worst rejections are the ones that they say, oh, we love your work, but or send us more work, right? And so like the first time in the MFA program, I got a rejection. I went to my pieces of advice and I said, you think I'm a good poet? Like, why am I getting rejections? And she's like, it's just time, you'll find a place that will love your work. And that also made me realize that it's not everywhere that I must be, right? The idea is not to send your work out to every place and then be accepted by everyone, but it's to be in important places. And in terms of refining work, I started working on these Adinkra poems in 2016. And so as I will submit and get rejected, I would keep working. And so when it got to 2019, it was set, like it was the time. Like no one could reject me because I had come to accept that this was the best book I could produce in this amount of time. So it definitely helps with the refining.
Very interesting feedback there, and I guess the rejection phase is something that every upcoming writer must go through to get their works at a certain quality, that when it reaches the world and it's really well accepted, just like your chapbooks have been. Let's now cross over to Tryphena, and still in the line of rejection, but in your fashion, where yours was just a one-touch situation. How does that make you feel? I would feel that my first chapbook coming out, edited by Kwaku, puts so much pressure on me to produce, better work. What's your take on that?
Sorry. I'm struggling with this because you mentioned the whole one-touch thing, and I'm thinking about all the times I've been rejected prior to this very big and sudden rejection. That was probably touched on that. So I'm getting to that point where I'm starting to realize that it's part of the process. And sometimes I get really shocked when I'm listening to like writer interviews, and these are like big writers, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I got rejected by last week," and I'm like, "Wait, what? You get rejected?" So I think the moment we come to acknowledge that rejection is a very normal and even sometimes expected as part of the creative process, it definitely helps to maybe if not embrace it, it helps us to get past it. And I think Afua probably touched on this, but one of the most valuable things this whole rejection process has taught me is to sort of go back to my work and then look at the kind of journals out there and the kind of journals that my work would be suitable for. I think that at the beginning I sort of started just sending out to everybody that's submittable. You just want to get the work out there.
Yeah.
But then I realized that there's some specific journals that are very much interested in the kind of themes you write about and the kind of style that you write. So, well, knowing all of this has made it not easier, but I guess it just makes it better to navigate the experience. So yeah, I'm still celebrating and enjoying the thrill of my one touch win for the future.
Interesting conversation so far. I think that it's now time for us to focus on your chapbooks, and I have the chapbooks in front of me, the three of them, and what strikes me about these chapbooks are the titles. So Kwaku's is the Revolutions of the Scavengers, and we have Tryphena, and that's by Afua, and A Mouthful of Home by Tryphena. And these are really interesting titles. And so starting with Kwaku, I'd like to know what inspired the title, and from Kwaku we can move to Tryphena and then to Afua.
Okay, so when you read the poems, you realize that I'm speaking mostly about Ghana. A lot of the poems are about Ghana. We are talking about issues in Ghana in these poems. But also, we are not just putting the blame on the government. There is a part of it that you feel like this is talking to us as citizens. This is about us. If we are also doing this right, probably this is not going to happen. So, over there, the scavengers is also representing us as citizens as well as the government. So one, we are the scavengers because we are feeding off just the few things that government drops for us. So that's where we become the scavengers. On the other hand, too, when we are the same people that become the government. Basically, I think the president of Ghana was also like us some time ago before he became the president. So he was just a human being before he became the president of Ghana. He was just like anybody else. So at that point, he was also a scavenger. Now he's up there. But are we seeing something different? So that's all about it. And then, we all know about revolution. So if we are all going to change something, if we are all going to decide that this time, this is how we are going to do this, we are going to change things around for ourselves, for the government. If we citizens are going to change something, something will work, definitely. If government is also changing something, other things are going to work. So that's about my title.
I think that there are scavengers and there are scavengers. Yeah, but let's hear from Yeboah and Tryphena.
Sorry. Oh, do I go?
Yes.
Yeah, you go on and I'll go next.
And I think there's a stark contrast between Kwaku's very large scale with the themes that he touches on, as compared to what I do in my work. I tend to lean towards confessional poetry. So a chunk of what I have in this book are personal narratives and things that are happening in my life. And for the title, A Mouthful of Home, I think I'm constantly reaching out of myself with a sense of belonging, constantly looking to find some kind of solace or comfort, or even to be seen in every other place but within myself. So I'm guessing that this title is sort of supposed to cover the idea that I am enough, that I can be here, I can be whole, and then find whatever I'm looking for within myself, and not constantly reaching out for what that really doesn't have everything that I think it has to offer me. And yeah, so most of it is like deeply personal, although I do try to add a few fiction elements here and there, but most of it is really personal, and I'm guessing it's a journey that I'm on for myself. So yeah.
I think mine is sort of in between. It's not about scavengers, but it really is about the political sense of self, inwardly and outwardly. And so when I thought about the Ethnic cross symbols, first I thought they were like 2 Ethnic cross symbols. So I was like, okay, I can just write 2. And then as I continued to do research, they're like at least 150 or more. And I was like, whoa, how do I group these symbols in a way that makes sense to me? And how do I bring my personality into it? And so as I kept looking at the symbols, I realized that a lot of them talk about God and the things that he could do, or the things that, or his attributes, right? And so I thought about intimacy with God and intimacy with supreme beings, how we sort of idolize ourselves or human beings as God, or how we idolize culture, or worship culture, or ritualize culture in that way. And so I also thought about Judas betraying Jesus, and I was like, how could he, and betrayal with a kiss? So I thought about ways in which we can become intimate with people, intimate with God, and the idea of kissing, right? So you can never really kiss God because he's not human, or he's not, well, he's real, but he's not he's not tangible as another human being would be. But how do we create intimacy with God? And then I used the symbols to sort of unearth that. But also I wanted to talk about being Ghanaian, because I'm like, why not in poetry? So that was my goal in using that title.
The audience was clapping, because I hope you heard it. And so Kwaku wants to say something, and then after that we'll take our first set of readings.
Oh, it's just something to add up. So the funny thing about this is, in some way, in these poems, we are all talking about God. In all of the poems, I see that Tryphena was talking about God in some of the poems. Afua was doing the same thing. In mine, I was also talking about God. Sometimes I pose them as questions, where I ask if there is this kind of God here. You understand? So it looks like these books are also in conversation in one way or the other. Yeah.
Interesting comments there. So we'd like to take our first reading. Tryphena has been quiet for a while, so Tryphena would like to take our first poem from A Mouthful of Poem.
I'm sorry, I did not see this coming. Is there one you prefer that I read, or do I pick one myself? Because I'm
yeah, sorry about that. Please pick one yourself.
I'll read the very, very last poem. Oh, I was not ready for this. Okay. And what if I breathe out? My mother wants to shrink me, make my body look smaller in a skirt. Said it has nothing to do with rape. Says a woman does not have to fold herself to be visible. Says we are already unseen, even when we are loud, even when we are the brightest in the room. Says a woman's body should fit in a dress it was made for. I believe her, but she bites up my size, spits it out when I'm not looking. Says, here, try this. Too small, I say. What if you breathe in, tuck your belly in like a secret, zip it up from the back and no one will ever know. I don't know what is sadder, that my ribs are squeezed so tight and I can barely breathe, or that I have to keep secret my own skin, to wash away my very own existence as though the world hasn't spent years trying to make me disappear. Thank you. It's a really short poem, so.
That was a very powerful piece there, Tryphena. And before we go to the next reading, I really want to know what is the deeper context of this poem, because there are so many layers to unfold, but I would really like to hear from you what inspired the piece and what really is the context of it.
This is super intimate and delicate, but I suppose most of what I write about tends to reveal my insecurities about how I look and how I feel and how I think and how I project all these emotions onto the world. And most of what I write also tends to touch on the very strange relationship that I have with my mom, who I didn't grow up with. So this is a poem as real as it gets, really. I am writing about my body and all the fears surrounding it, all the ways I try to guard it, but then the ways I also fail at doing that. And yeah, really, I always struggle to say so much about a poem because I feel like in my attempt to write it, I put on everything there is to be said about it. So hopefully this very little exposition is enough to understand and appreciate it.
I think that's a very good selection for the first read. It really embodies the title of your chapbook, A Mouthful of Home, where the body is our home and how we feel about it. And there are many things that we keep to ourselves, and so it makes it a mouthful. I'd like to move now to Afua to take a reading from her chapbook, Tryphena.
Kwaku and I always talk about how like we can never follow Try because like she gives us pressure. Okay, so I will read the second poem. And I feel like I should show a little bit because my poems have the symbols as titles. And so it's the Kyereh, which is the king of the Kyereh symbols. In the dream, you are God. Ink and water worship you. The spines of shapes offer themselves as sacrifice to your imagination. You drink in and thirst no more. Your hands are tied to your back. In the dream, you are wet. Splashes of ink drip from your right hand. You sit on the cold floor with your feet sinking into a rock. In the dream, you lie on brown grass to wail. Thick drops of ink fall to your face, not like dew, but as though someone else were at a loss, your wife or children inheriting your sorrow. You dip your fingers into your jaws to draw shapes on a white slate. In the dream, you are the red tree bark cut into pieces by a farmer and cooked in a cauldron, high heat with borrowed water. You bubble and overflow. When the sun sets, you cool. In the dream, you are calabash carved into the shape of a vase. The humans pour something into you, thick and fiery. They leave a bat at the curl of your lips, and it drinks until you are empty.
Such a lovely piece. Afua, I would really want you to talk more on your research and fascination into English symbols and I'm asking this because knowing that Edinkra symbols, and please forgive me if I'm wrong or I don't know enough, but Edinkra symbols usually hold heavier meaning than they portray, and it takes some sort of a philosophical thinking to understand these symbols. Hearing you read and reading it for myself here as you were reading along, it's I kind of get a sense of there's so much philosophy packed into your poetry. Would you say that this has been influence of your research in Edinkra symbols? And don't forget to answer why you are so fascinated with the Edinkra symbols.
Okay. So many questions. I think my fascination with the Edinkra symbols began when I was teaching an African literature class in Stony Brook. And so as part of my MFA, I was privileged enough to teach a class, and being one of two Black people in a community, I said, why not teach an African class? And as part of being sort of a multidisciplinary instructor, I wanted to bring to my students videos. And what's his name? Why am I blanking out? So there's a scholar who did on PBS a show on African civilizations, and he was going to all these caves and these ancient civilizations. And he went into one cave, and I saw the symbol of the Afua. And I said, this Edinkra symbol, so someone probably just drew them in there. And so I was like, nah, this is not. And so that's when my research began. I was like, looking at that, wait, so there's more than one. There's more than one. There's like 1,000, not 1,000, but like there's a lot more. And then I was able to do research in a museum in California that's collected some of these symbols. I think for me, I'm trying to find a way back to Ghana. Okay, so I left when I was younger, and I've come here, and I've sort of like being in America and trying to find myself as a Black woman, African woman, Black woman of the diaspora, trying to find a place to fit in. The Edinkra symbols are sort of mine. Like I can hold them, I can say, I know something about Edinkra that you don't know. And so they are very personalized to me. And researching them give me an advantage or a knowledge that a lot of people don't know. Like people see Edinkra like, oh, that's jewelry or that's cloth, but that's communication. If you see Edinkra, I'm communicating something to you that you should know. Like if I'm at war with you and I have a symbol across my forehead, you should know we're not talking, right? We're about to start a fight. And that's sort of the power in it. My whole research as a graduate student is on Edinkra symbols, and I would have never imagined that would be. The poem I read is about the Edinkra hitting, and there are various myths about the Edinkra symbols, because no one knows the exact origin. Like it's like, oh, it appeared out of nowhere. But people mythicize that a king from Côte d'Ivoire who was captured created these symbols because he was mourning his capture. And so this poem was sort of like imagining what the king would have gone through in trying to create these symbols.
Thank you. And I never knew about the story behind the Edinkra symbols, or the supposed story, so that's something new. We'll now take a reading from Kwaku, and after that I think I'll open if our audience here have questions.
Okay, so I'm going to read Revolution of the Scavengers. Revolution of the Scavengers. My son, I had it in my heart to build a house for the name of the Lord my God. First King David, First Chronicles 22:7. Ghana word, news headline. Government begins demolition of Church in Bangalore's National Cathedral. And the prophets agreed that David builds a temple in the name of the Lord. But can a man build a house for the Lord when the Lord has not asked? There is a still smell of a national temple, a national cathedral, needful, not needful, in the atmosphere. And as the nation reasoned, the Lord spoke to the prophets. Your hands are bloody, man. Don't build a thing in my name with those bloody hands, man. Now the prophets asked the king, are your hands free of blood? The flags have come to take the bloods in your name. The birds have taken bloods in your name. They come with your hands and leave with your hand. Your fingerprints are all over these graveyards. Bloody hands build no temples, my Lord. So the king built no temples, and this was a wise king who loved his people. Thank you.
I always wonder, why as Ghanaians or as Africans we are so fixated by the thoughts and image of God. And even I find that even people who say I don't go to church so much, or I'm not as religious as I should be, always have conversations about God, one way or the other, whether we should be resistant of Him or whether we should actually follow His ways. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on this.
Okay, so let me pass this. This is just a joke. If you are atheist here, please. We are not fighting. I often tell my friends that I know people who have told me, okay, I am an atheist. And I meet them and I ask you, yo Charlie, I want to say, and they are like, Nyamia Domo. And I'm like, yo, you told me you're an atheist. So how are you not talking to me about Nyamia Domo? So to some extent, I mean, we all believe in something. It may not be the God that everybody knows, or the God that the Christians know, or the Muslims know, but you believe in something. So even if you're an atheist and you believe there is no God, that is still belief, and that is some kind of God. So that is my view on the issue of God. Yeah.
Nice. I really want to link talk about God and people in power and government. Do you think that there is a link between the two? And we often, the way we always blame government for everything. We can't rightly say who is government. The question is who is government and where did government come from? But then there are people who are in power. Is it that as people we like to always have an unknown body to blame for something? Hence, we have the belief in God and saying, oh, a baby will be well one day, a better yes, or, we just want to put everything onto an unknown power, and then it translates into putting all our burdens onto government, even if we can solve our problems.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, because, like, for instance, in Ghana, one of my teachers once said that if somebody is poor, and if somebody is poor and then they have an issue, they have an issue with somebody, a kind of litigation, what normally you hear is, but when the person is well-to-do, let's go to court. You get it? So it looks like we use the issue of God as some kind of an excuse sometimes for the things that we lack. Because I don't have money to take you to court, okay, and let me leave it to God. And it feels like, for some reason, it keeps us stable. You're going to think about the whole thing. I need money, I have to send this issue to this, I have to do this, my kid is sick, I have to send a child to hospital, but I don't have the money. But if I leave it to God and something bad happens, definitely it was God.
And there we are again, trying to put everything onto an unknown source of power. I'd like to open the floor, as we say, for questions if there are any, and to our guests. Do you have a question, a comment?
I'd like to know where we can purchase Afua's books, if she has copies in Ghana.
Okay. So the question to Afua is, where can we get your books?
I'm working on it, and so I will post that with Elizabeth or Kwaku, but please stay tuned.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's another question, so we'll take it.
Yes, two comments.
Yeah.
On the question of God. I think there are two important distinctions: autopsy, autocracy. What religion says and what we do. And also the fact that we do something does not mean that is what religion says. So it's important that, because we are conditioned by our circumstances, and per history, we tend to look at things certain ways. So for example, because of our colonial experience, being oppressed, we kind of look to a higher power. And that distinction, because the colonialism, transatlantic enslavement trade has that thing with Christianity, so it's not that simple. And then the second one is about the origins of Adinkra. There are quite a number of mythologies that explain the origins of Adinkra. The king is said to have come from Bono, German, the German state, North Korea. And then one of the explanations also is that Adinkra is like Yedinkra farewell. So some people think that also from somewhere in the Ashanti Kingdom, but Ashanti appropriated all civilizations from any Akan nation. So it could be from anywhere.
Okay, so what Kwaku said is quite true. I am from German, which I think Afua and I have spoken about like a couple of times. So I'm from German, where it is believed that the Adinkra symbols came from. And even in our chieftaincy, aside of the people who can become the kings or the chiefs, are the Adinkra people. The name is still there. You get it? And the thing about Côte d'Ivoire is that a part of the Bono Kingdom is in Ivory Coast now. And even in the past, the Bono Henner, after the land demarcations, he was in Ivory Coast. So they used to still go to his side every year for their, cultural practices, which now they don't do. But it is still there. We understand that that link is still there. So even with the Bono that we speak, now we feel like the one spoken in Ivory Coast is, the pure one. What we speak now has been infiltrated with, all the other Ghanaian languages. So that's just something that I wanted to add here.
Very nice comments coming in. The thing I love about literature is that you get to know a lot more if you read than if you do other things. Not to say that other things are not a good use of your time, but I believe that literature is one of the best use of your time. So let's keep reading. Do we have a question? Okay.
Yeah. So this is for Kwaku. So in your book, you have the God of accountability, God of water, and then there are so many other gods. So I'm trying to think about it. Is it like the many faces of God of one deity, or is it different deities? What was the idea here?
Okay, so I've been thinking about the attributes of God, and sometimes I'm still thinking about it, so I'm not going to say that this is certain, because tomorrow if you ask me, I may change my mind. So I've been thinking about the fact that probably the attributes of God that we know in the English language, when it comes to our African setting, we would have named them as different gods. When as a Christian, you would think that God is the same God that gives us rain. But in the African setting, we will have a God that gives rain. So I feel like probably it's just the same thing. It's nothing different. It's just the same thing, the way we see it. You understand? So that's one of the things that I was thinking about when I was writing the book. And then the other thing was, somehow I was reading Inua's book. I've forgotten the title. The God of Rainfall.
Yeah.
Yes. So I read that book around the same time. So I think that also had some kind of influence on the work to some extent. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
In that comment, when you take it from the Christian perspective,
yeah,
even as Jehovah Jireh. There are all these kinds of other names. But as you were talking, I remembered by Simon's a question that he posed on social media so many years ago about pantheons. And I think in his, maybe, I feel in his framing of the question was to do with Igbo mythology or Yoruba mythology, when you have a god of iron, god of fire, god of something. And then he was asking about the Akan gods. You know, if in Akan you have gods of rain, you have gods of that. So, I don't know, maybe ontologically, it could be theorizing something. You know, in a kind of context where we don't have really gods of all these things, as opposed to Greek gods.
Okay. And you see, the other thing about this is that when you come to the Akan system, you realize that even the attributes of God that we give in Akan to the God that is supposed to be the Christian God, you see these autotrobonsu. And when you break it down, you realize that this is related to this. This is related to that. So it feels like a god of this, a god of that. Just that we don't specifically call it like that. So, yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, it's almost becoming a religious class now. Yeah, but let's refocus back into the chapbooks. I think that it's a good time to take the second round of reading, which might sadly be our last. So we'll take the next round of readings and a few comments, and then we can call it a night. But the great thing is that our three awesome guests have chapbooks that you can purchase, and they'll definitely have more pieces to share with us in the coming future. So I think we could start with Kwaku here, and then cross over to our friends on the other side.
Okay, I don't know what to read. Okay. So, I think I'm going to read The Fireball Screams. The Fireball Screams. Ghana Web reports, Modern Ghana reports, other local news outlets report. We believe, but we want confirmation. BBC, Al Jazeera, and CNN. Al Jazeera report. Gas depot blast killed at least 7 in Accra. The video circulating on WhatsApp and other social media passes for a bombing scene in any America versus Iraq movie as a fireball umbrella the city. Edward Monk's The Scream has no voice but a body, yet we hear the scream, mysterious. In the video, we hear the scream but no bodies, which means lives are living bodies, which means bodies are becoming ashes, which means people are being roasted. People are roasting the kebab seller for lighting the match. The kebab seller then leaves the gas or plant the gas station in the middle of the city. But he doesn't use human bodies for kebab. I cannot blame, I cannot question the gods. Which of the gods? The god of fire or the god of fuel stations? A few people roast the government. We are the people, and we are the tribes, and we are the government. Maybe we should roast ourselves for not knowing the laws, and for knowing the laws and entombing them in dead ears. Thank you.
I think now we can take one from Afua, and then we'll take the last from Tryphena.
Okay. So I will read the last. Not to go back to God, but I realized that one of the common symbols that a lot of people know is the jinyame. So I'm going to read a poem about that. So jinyame, except for God, or if not for God. Nyame wears a strange mouth. It is like small rocks with oceans running inside them. Touch, and you may shatter into eternal mortality. Not in the way a baby's eyes closes with her mouth over her mother's nipples, slightly ajar, or how a beetle sheds life and still lives with straight wings. This rock of mouth is for Nyame to sing orphaned creatures through dull jaws onto dry banks. Nyame also has a tongue that remembers ways to mourn the dying. Thank you.
Once again, you missed your applause from the audience, so maybe you can take it. Yeah, so now over to you, Tryphena.
I was muted. Liz, I think I want to read a poem that is not in the book. And Liz, I think you've heard me read this before. But this is a relatively new piece I wrote for my friend, whom I call a friend of my heart, and she's recently been hospitalized. So it's just been surreal to see her go through this health crisis and how it affects all of us and how it affects her. So this is for my friend, and the title of this poem is Pause. So, okay. Pause. Ours is not an impoverished relationship, the roots of a thing resisting growth. What we are is a sprouting field, a greenness that ripens fast and extends a hope we cannot live without. Which is why the second I hear about the malfunction, the accident that your brain has turned against itself, that you're twitching, your body having lost all control, jolting an electric madness through you, my heart, it bends. My heart, it gives way, falls free from its anchor and shoots right up, trapped inside, an abnormal growth of a cell. Take a day, any day, where the body, without warning, compels itself into a crisis. The urgency with which it spreads, the manner in which it breaks the flesh that holds it. Take a day, any day, where the night before, your friend talks and laughs like it is the most normal thing, the most precious thing. And before you know it, you're waking up to a life that is naked and exposed, so fragile you're sent to your knees, gathering what is left of it. I witnessed the breaking down. My friend, a drip hooked to her vein, is thread strangling me at the neck. My friend, losing her speech, the hitch in her voice creating a void that can swallow me whole. My friend, taking out her braids, preparing her scalp for wires to record weight patterns. I go under and under, drowning when no one sees. The friend of my heart on a bed, a table, inside a tube-shaped machine, my God, a nightmare, an emergency, the body as a frightening complexity, and my friend, laboring in breath while the condition splits her open. She inhales, and it's a gift. She exhales, and it's a promise. Take a day, any day, where everything is predictable, where you lift a cup to your lips and eat of something sweet, honey on your tongue, waters of milk flowing about you on all sides. Days you are so at ease you escape the memory of pain, where life is so long, so full, you take your time to live in it. Now what you imagine, give to me tenderly. I am desperate for something to believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Tryphena. The first time I heard it, I didn't know what to say, and hearing it again, and this piece will always be very profound. And I think that it is a great way to bring our amazing conversation, amazing and godly conversation, to an end. I have been I'm very honored to be speaking with you guys. I'm very excited to have new voices, and from Ghana, especially from Ghana, and I'm looking forward to reading more of your works. This is my first interaction with you, and I definitely will be more or less judging you because of your research and hoping to read more. And Tryphena, keep giving us more. And also to Kwaku, definitely we need more from the revolution of the scavengers. I am looking forward to maybe a part 2 or 3 or a bigger book. So yeah, we also had a very interactive audience, and thank you for making the time. It wasn't a great start, but we ended on a beautiful note. So if you're watching us virtually, this has been a poetry reading and discussion with Afua, Ansong, Henner, Kwaku, and Tryphena, Yeboah, who have recently been published in the New Generation African Poets, a chapbook set. And I always like to mention that Carmen Dowse is a part of this. And yeah, have a lovely evening and enjoy the rest of your weekend. We have more of Kyereh tomorrow, and we hope that you can join us virtually again sometime soon and enjoy the festival from wherever you are. Thank you.